what's going on? Rob Cesternino back for a little Traitors feedback, getting ready for episode 8 coming up this Thursday night. And I'm back here with the Duke of Deception. Here he is. It's Pooya Zamakili. Pooya, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rob. I'm doing good. My sleep schedule's a little bit out of whack, but we here.
Why? What's going on?
I don't know, man. I overslept one day and then I stayed up way too late another day, and now I'm in shambles.
Got to get back on balance, back on track.
I really need to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are in the hangover period after the Black Banquet. Everybody's still talking about how it all went down. Lots of reactions. We'll talk about Rob versus Candiace. Maybe is this all going to start to unravel for the Traitors coming up this week? And the battle lines are drawn, Pooya.
They are. We find ourselves in the midst of the starting point for the Civil War. I feel like maybe last week was the case, but now it's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. And we also are scheduled to talk with Lisa Rinna coming up later on today on Tuesday. Probably won't be as eventful as my conversation with Jam Jam, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless.
Oh, I think it will be eventful. I think Lisa's going to deliver,
yes.
But I think it's going to be a different energy to what we had when we talked to Jam Jam for sure.
And if she doesn't deliver, we'll be like, Lisa, come on. I know that this isn't the real you. Where's the housewife, Lisa? You're supposed to be we're expecting a little bit more from you. Isn't it weird that you didn't bring more to the interview, Lisa?
Yeah, we reheating the old Colton Underwood nachos here.
Never. I will never reheat Colton's nachos.
No, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. We're going to have a good time with it.
Yes. Okay. So, Pooya,
mm-hmm.
It's the we got left with a cliffhanger of Rob and Candiace in the turret. And it's really, I think, going to be the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, and you can decide who's who, but we've seen these two work pretty effectively together so far this season, but it does seem like this is going to reach a boiling point.
Absolutely. I think that I think the biggest debate I've seen come out of Thursday has been the Rob defenders defending Rob's vote, push out of Lisa, the Candiace defenders defending Candiace's vote, people talking about how Candiace's vote was stupid and is going to lose her the game. And it's very interesting to me because I feel like you can really see all the sides on this and make your own mind up of how you think it's going to go. I'm very curious what that turret looks like, because I think the number one question on people's minds are they going to recruit or are they going to murder?
Let me
go ahead.
Okay. I think that is a very fair question to start. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we spend like 10 minutes in the turret to start the episode on Thursday.
I would love that. That would be magnificent.
Because first of all, they have to decide which thing they're going to do, and they have to decide who to recruit or who to murder.
There's a lot of moving parts here, and this is what intrigues me infinitely about the whole recruitment process, if they recruit, because I think upon first glance you're like, okay, well, Candiace will not want, like, if Rob suggests Colton, Candiace won't want that. Whoever Rob suggests, Candiace doesn't want. Whoever Candiace suggests, Rob doesn't want. I think that if you let them recruit who they want, you have the upper hand. Now let me explain why. Let's play in a scenario. Rob wants to recruit Colton. I think for Candiace, that's not a bad idea, because if then Candiace spends all her energy in the next round pushing out Colton, who already has some people that want to vote him anyway, and then Colton's revealed to be a traitor, that puts her in a better spot. Other side of the coin, let's say Candiace like, I want Dorinda. Rob's like, well, I'm not going to do two housewives again. If he does that and they push out one of the housewives, the whole narrative of, hey, it's a housewives turret works for Rob better. Also, though, I think Rob doesn't see this, but if if a man is banished as a traitor, that helps Rob also. I don't think
Yes.
that's a bad idea for him either. But I don't think they're going to see any of that logic. I think they're going to be like, I'm not giving you what you want. It's not going to happen.
So the idea of recruiting in a traitor to sort of be a sacrificial lamb, I think certainly was talked about in season 2 when Parvati wanted to bring in Pilot Pete, and there
Yes.
was some idea about that. But I feel like it really hasn't happened in the US version of the show. Is that a fair statement?
I would say so, not compared to some of the other ones we've seen.
Okay, so let's bring in some of the international editions of the show, and maybe not necessarily like citing the specific instances so we don't spoil those seasons, but do you feel like does that tend to be an effective strategy? Because I feel like that on paper it sounds good, but in practice, the person who's being thrown under the bus tends to really like immediately figure out they're being thrown under the bus and then can be very resentful and then tip off the faithful to what's happening and make it very clear that it was traitor on traitor.
Absolutely. And I think that's the hard part. And that's why I'm never for recruitment until you absolutely have to.
Mhm.
Because especially let's look at this turret a little closer. Anyone that's not a close Rob ally comes in, they're gonna look at Rob and be like, wow, you just threw your own under the bus pretty damn deep. How can I ever trust you?
Yeah.
And that should be their immediate reaction going in, and they should start playing defense immediately. But I think that the problem is there's not much you can do defensively outside of throwing their name out, which to your point is going to be a problem.
The best case scenario, I really feel like for Candiace and Rob is to try to fix this thing, and maybe that's my flaw of like, okay, how do we fix this? What's the win-win? As opposed to like, this is the line in the sand, let's cut bait. But I think if they recruited like a Mark Ballas type, somebody who
Mhm.
could come in, a great listener, somebody who could hear, okay, I hear what you're saying, I hear what you're saying. We need somebody to heal the rift with the traders, because I wonder, is it too early for either of them to try to go it alone?
So we're at what? We're going to be about a final 11. I
Yeah.
think
Or
you
am I thinking about this totally wrong? And that is it better for like, okay, we're all in at the table. Okay. One is going to take out the other. And then can the other one bring in a person that they can work with and go the distance with the person they want?
I think that's probably what both of them are thinking right
Yeah.
now is I need to empty it out and rehire, bring a new person in.
Okay.
Because I think to do this solo from here on would be, first of all, they won't let you do that because they're going to make you do a blackmail probably to bring someone else in. I don't think we're going to have a 1v10 lobby. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, you can never have just one trader at this point in the game, because then
Yeah.
if that person gets banished at the round table, there's no traders and the show is over.
Game's over. Yeah.
You can't ultimately have that if you get down to one person. So, but which do you think is the better strategy? Should they try to bring in somebody that can help fix this bad marriage at this point,
Uh-huh.
or do you think that they are both better? They are both incentivized to go it alone with a person of their choosing.
I think that right now, first of all, I think that both of them will benefit from working together. I think that individually, they're both situated not in a bad spot. I think Rob's in a really good spot. I think Candiace is still in a very decent spot as well. Together, they could be better. But let's say that's off the table.
Yeah.
I think that as of right now, I don't think neither trust the other. I think Rob has just got a vote from Candiace, doesn't love that. I think Candiace just watched one of her own get eaten up by Rob, doesn't like that. So I think they're both going to look into getting rid of the other and making room for a fresh start for themselves, as opposed to patching things up and moving along. If I had my druthers, if I was one of them, I would use this upcoming round as a trial of like, let's see if we can work together and go from there. Because if I'm Rob, I have to feel confident that like, yeah, I don't think Candiace has the mojo to get rid of me this round. So let me see what she does. Let me decide from there. And I think for Candiace, it's like, well, let me see if he retaliates on the one vote I gave him. If he doesn't, maybe there's something to be done. I just don't think they're going to trust each other moving forward. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So I think we have a pretty good sense of how Candiace is as a player and as a trader and how she's looking at the game. And I think she really wants to be in control and doesn't want to be just a passenger in somebody else's turret. As for Rob, he has been a little bit more quiet to this point. We don't necessarily know how he looks at the game as a whole. We know a little bit of how he operates as a trader. One of the comments that I saw about Rob Roush before the season, and maybe we can find this tweet, is somebody asked, hey, could you explain this person to me with other reality TV references? And this person on Twitter wrote, he's like if Boston Rob and Lex had a baby. And that he has sort of the very like emotional nature of Lex. And if you cross me, I can't forgive you. But then also the cold-bloodedness of Boston Rob. And so I would imagine with that type of makeup, I have to feel like that he too will feel like he can go it alone.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially now that he's not outnumbered in the turret, I think that gives him newfound like confidence that he may not have had even before. I think also he doesn't seem like a stressor compared to other people we've seen in the turret. Being like having ice in the veins like that, I think allows you to also get away with a lot more than if you're constantly worried about what's happening. If you're just like chill about it, you get away with a lot more. You can do a lot more.
So this week, Candiace popped in on Watch What Happens Live and was asked a little bit about her vote for Rob at the roundtable. And I actually have this clip. I'd love to play it for you to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of how Candiace is viewing things. Let me see. Here we go. Here is talking with Andy Cohen.
Suspicious?
No,
You don't think the throwaway vote made you look suspicious?
No, so Rob was a mute at this table, every other round table before this one.
Okay.
So for him to come out and give a State of the Union address, I was looking at him like, are you high? Like, are you okay? Like, there was like a twinkle in his eye. He like came out of his shell. That is suspicious to me. If I were a faithful and I'm looking at behavior at this table and all of a sudden you're like switching up.
Yeah.
You were too passionate about somebody that you had no passion for prior to.
Okay. So what do you think about Candiace's statement that Rob coming out of nowhere, he hasn't talked at the round table really the whole season, and then for him to come out and prosecute the case, Lisa, so much, was that really giving Traitor on Traitor?
I think that's a great case by Candiace there, because I do think that we even on the night talked about how, because I think people misunderstood some of the things I was saying. I do not disagree with him voting out Lisa. I think once he had done it last time, he has to do it again. I think I disagreed vehemently with him being the one to push it across the table that night. And I think that for Candiace, it is a great way to, again, throw a nod to, hey, that could have been a Traitor on Traitor interaction, just saying, because there is enough there to make a case for it. I think him being very outspoken out of nowhere, who is the last Traitor I can think of that went silent for a bunch and then threw out one name and it was the Traitor name? It was Dan Giesling. The difference is Rob Roush has hella allies and has a lot of connections that Dan Giesling did not have.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really interesting. But when Candiace votes, she says, I don't know why this is just a throwaway vote. Should she have at the round table, and maybe she sort of was, is this going to be what we see her do in the castle in the next episode? It's like, hey, I said it was a throwaway vote. I think it was Traitor on Traitor. Rob went hard for Lisa. How did he know? Where is this coming from all of a sudden, this guy? And so maybe rather than saying it in front of everybody and tip off Rob to what you're doing, I wonder if this was part one of her plan potentially.
I don't know if she's going to be like, I actually had a master plan all along. I think that she could, and what I could see more likely happening is her bringing it up in the sense of, so I was sitting with my vote last night. Obviously, I think the throwaway comment is more so I couldn't decide between the two options you gave me, so I went a different route. And I do think she can start painting that narrative, especially because of the fact that, again, out of nowhere, he's starting to talk more. That's a little bit strange. It's not happened a lot before. I think that's a good case to be made. I think the one issue, though, is that right now, as things stand, Colton is the one they're looking at going for.
Mhm.
I think Colton is the one they have more votes on currently. So I don't think she can full launch a Rob Roush situation. I don't think she has the votes for a Rob Roush banishment.
Yeah.
I think she needs to dwindle that side on Colton is the first step.
It will be very interesting to see how this shakes out if they both decide to go all in on at this particular moment, because they are both two of the most popular players in the game. And it's probably maybe most similar to like Boston Rob and Bob the Drag Queen, who were both two really popular players in the third season, where there's a lot of people that consider Candiace to be a great ally. Candiace has had a really good social game, and there are people who really enjoy her company in the castle, but so does Rob. And probably they're in like the top 3 or 4 most popular people if you polled everybody who's there. So these are two very beloved figures inside this group that potentially are going to be trying to now sway a lot of people against somebody that they have warm feelings towards.
Yeah, and I think that's what fascinates me about this Traitor Civil War versus the others, is that this feels like a pretty decently sized matchup. I think both sides have advantages. Both sides have allies. We cracked down the numbers on the recap, and it's pretty close. I think on first sight, Rob Roush looks like he has a bigger lead, and I do think Rob Roush is positioned better than Candiace is, but I don't think Candiace is a slouch, and I do think that Candiace has enough trusted numbers that can do the damage for her in Johnny and Tara, who I think Johnny has a lot more leeway than we're being shown. And I think that if she has Johnny firmly, they can get other numbers. They could make a pivot happen. But we're in a very delicate spot because once a murder does happen and Rob has the dagger, now we're really getting to a little bit of Survivor here, Rob, where it's like there's two sides. One vote could really determine everything this upcoming roundtable.
And they're both such popular figures that it seems like the type of thing where it might take a couple of rounds to poison the well against the other person, unless one of them makes such a big mistake where the other one can point, aha, we got you now. And that does happen on the Traitors.
Yeah, and I think that for me, that's what I'm waiting to see. I'm going to see who's going to make a mistake, how we're going to go from there. Genuinely, depending on who leaves this week, Rob, in the banishment, that could determine which side can take this all the way. Because I think my money is still on Rob pulling it off. I think he still has, with the dagger and the allies he's got, I feel like he's got more of a case. I worry that if the Johnny side pushes on Colton, they get Colton. Colton's like faithful. They're like, oh no, we touched the hot stove. Let's back off. And that gives Rob Roush the platform to then run and do something else. But we'll see.
The Dagger 6 is going to certainly weigh into things, but don't forget that Johnny was trying to get that big group of 8 faithfuls, which I think Rob was included in that group, of people to be able to control the round table. You've heard Johnny Weir talk about that over the last couple episodes of like, okay, if our people control the round table, we control who goes home. And I do feel like that Candiace has better connections into the Johnny and Tara relationship.
Yeah, I think so as well. Remind me who that 8 was, Rob.
So I believe it was Johnny, Tara, Mark, Kristen, Eric, Maura, Rob, and Steven. Survivor know-it-alls.
They're still all there. So, yeah, I think Rob and Maura
Steven
might be
and Rob, without a
camp.
doubt, have got the faithfuls figured out.
I mean, if they put Steven in that turret, Rob, we could make that
Survivor
parody.
overalls.
Was this off the top of the dome, or did you think about this over the week?
We did say Survivor overalls on the podcast we did with Annabelle the other day.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, so it's been stuck in your head is what I'm hearing.
I have been really trying to think about what to do with Survivor overalls for a couple of days since we had that podcast. We did a great podcast breaking down Survivor UK Season 4 also with Annabelle. Lots of nice feedback on that podcast. I really had a fun time doing that.
It was delightful. Again, if you've not watched the UK, check it out. It was very good.
Pooya, let's see. What other questions did we get? We asked for feedback from the listeners. So let's tackle some feedback questions.
Yes, we asked and they delivered, Rob, in a lot.
Yes.
So let's quickly go to the beginning of this episode, which was all about the banquet. Now,
Yep.
I will say, because of the nature of the fact that I watch the show and then hop on with you immediately, I don't get to see what the Twitter streets, what the Blue Sky streets are saying.
Thread
Very mixed
streets, give the thread.
Well, I've seen you make a return to the thread streets. I have seen that. Overwhelmingly underwhelmed is what I got from a lot of people. And the banquet, they felt like there should have been more. I think it was bigged up a lot and didn't get there. But let's answer a question about it. If you were tasked with altering the banquet, what changes would you make? How do you see a change here making a better product?
So I feel like that the banquet itself didn't need a lot of changes. I don't think that was too like, it was epic. It was everything you expect from the Traitors. Alan Cumming got to like really deliver on like this great set piece. You know, Jam Jam getting pulled out of the room was very fun. I think if you were going to make a tweak, I think the idea of ending it saying, hey, one of you has been poisoned, let's find out what ultimately happened, and then everybody, good night, go to bed. I think that probably is more within the spirit of the show. I like that they tried it, and ultimately Lisa was probably going home no matter what happened. Like, I think if Jam Jam ends up like saying like, Tara Lipinski kissed me, I think Lisa probably still goes home at the round table. That being said, I think it probably is, I think a little bit more within the spirit of the show if they end up doing it where they go to bed.
They go to bed when? Like
they go to bed and then somebody doesn't come to breakfast. And then we find out who got murdered, who got poisoned in front of everybody.
Instead of the public
that would be
nature.
An advance on the traditional murder in plain sight. Because the players... traditionally, where we've seen these dinner parties in other versions of the Traitors where the traitor needs to do something, the deed is done, we find out, everybody goes to bed, and then in the morning it's like, oh, the players, this person was murdered in plain sight at the dinner party, or was murdered in plain sight last night, and they find out in the morning. This would have been at least, hey, somebody has been poisoned, there's a chance to stop it. Did it work? We'll find out who doesn't show up to breakfast. I think that's probably like a little bit more within the spirit of the show. I didn't have a big problem with what Jam Jam did. I mean, he had the right person and the wrong motive, and I know people didn't really love that. But I think that if they go to bed, I think that feels a little bit more like the Traitors.
Yeah, I think that I like the psychological implications of that. Of they did the whole antidote dance, two people drank it, and now the remainder of the night, they're all having a meal as if one person could very well be gone tomorrow. And I like the idea that they can further try and speculate, watching each other, of like who looks suspect, who looks relieved, who looks nervous now after the antidotes.
Yeah, that's
like, that would have been
interesting
fun
to then have it play out where, like, I kind of thought that would be the end of the night. Like, okay, well, good night. Where then, okay, now dessert. to see how it's going to go. We had a question from somebody, and I don't know if we have it pulled up, where that they wanted to know how would it have gone if, and let me know if you see this question, but the question was, if hypothetically that, let's say Jam Jam drank the antidote. Yeah. Would Alan have said, hey, Jam Jam, you're safe? And then, because it would have then made him, I think, a cleared faithful, unless that this was some elaborate plan over, like, because you know how sometimes the traitor or the faithful big brain, like, oh, wait, was Jam Jam a traitor and that they did the poison to him on purpose, and then he knew about the antidote, and then he drank it so that he could say he was definitely a faithful, and now we know he's a traitor?
I think that in the event Jam Jam drank the antidote, I think that the reveal ends up being, my assumption is that no one's murdered. Yes. And I think they don't outright say it was Jam Jam, but he's safe, because then that does hard clear him, and that goes against the game. I think then people can think of it two ways, right? Either they're like, oh my God, so Kristen and Jam Jam, one of them got poisoned, or they're like, The traitors give it to themselves to throw us off. I think that the paranoia then would end up increasing. Those are the two ways I could see it going. I don't think outright they clear Jam Jam off of it.
I agree with you. And I think that that's the reason why there were two antidotes, because I think that then if one of the two players who was the attempted murder victim, then Alan says, alas, rejoice, the antidote worked. There shall be no murder tonight. And everybody's like, yes. It's like, but who was it? Who drank? Who was the person that they tried to murder? And
that, and I think also they would then spend a lot of time looking at everything those two did.
Yes.
Which,
yes. And you know how it is. It's like, oh wait, we have that, like now we have to banish them because we have to check to see if Natalie or Kristen, they might have been traitors. They might be, so we might have to take them out now.
If we take both out, there's a chance we got a traitor. The coffin theory comes back to life again, in a way.
Cage theory from the UK. So yeah, that definitely, like anything that puts you in the spotlight is like, but wait, it could be. So
yeah,
interesting. So I think that the banquet, there were a lot of things that were interesting about it. I really think that I appreciate the swing.
Yeah, I think that I enjoyed it. I think that it's a mechanic that I would like to see brought back again, for sure.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that they had the mind to put some red herrings in there. The cards were there. I think that was huge. I think that stuff like that is good, because if you're putting them all in this, it's like putting someone in an escape room and then being like, hey, escape. And you don't know, you're like, are these knobs part of the escape room? Is this wall part of the escape room? What can I touch? What can I not touch? Here, there's no rules. Anything can be the murder weapon. You have to figure it out yourself.
Yep. All right, Pooya, what else did people want to know?
Let's see. So the other thing, so outside of the banquet, Rob, a lot of people have been talking about some, the Candiace thing, the Rob thing. We can talk about that more in a second. Which faithful is playing the best game? Now, as arguably one of the best faithfuls to have been in the game, present company included, I feel like it's a hard question to answer, because I feel like we are being shown a lot of the bad faithful gameplay, and I think some of the good faithful gameplay is being hidden from us. And by hidden, I don't mean like on purpose, but it's a little bit more in the background currently because it's not part of the main story.
Yeah. It's really hard to determine what is a good faithful, because you have Lord Ivar won the game. So was he the best faithful in one of the four best faithfuls in season 4? In season 3? I guess on paper he was. So that there are faithfuls who advance in the game because they serve the cause of the traitors and they are useful pieces on the chessboard for the traitors. And then there are faithfuls who have, at least to this point, disguise themselves as a person who is working in the interests of the traitors, but then they have to pick their spot to take off their disguise and say, aha, no, all along I had you. And so I think that that's really what the game is of the faithful. And my biggest flaw of the faithful was at no point did I appear to be someone who was working to advance the interest of the traitors. I was too faithful. Again, that was not what I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, I think that
I thought the traitors would be throwing me under the bus and saying like, oh, banish him.
It's so hard to measure a good faithfuls game, because you can look at it in so many different ways. You do know it when you see it, I think, because, for example, who is least likely to get murdered of the bunch? I think Maura is least likely to get murdered of the bunch. I think that Johnny or Tara potentially least likely to get murdered in the bunch. While Candiace is there, I do not think Dorinda is going anywhere as far as a murder. So would we say these are good faithful games? They're safe from murder. That's good. I think on the other side, who are the safe from banishment people?
Well,
I think Tara Lipinski's not going anywhere.
Who are the people that are most in danger of murder right now?
I think we talked about this a little bit last week. I think people who are not firmly in either camp, because you got to pick somebody to go anyway. And I think the people who are we will call them the middles here. Eric
but not mid.
not mid by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Eric Nam for me is a top candidate to be murdered this upcoming round. I think he's one. I think Stephen Kalady now has a bit of sus on him. How much of that has been reverberated around the castle, we'll see. But he's also dagger 6 a little bit, so maybe not him. I think Kristen, I'm a little bit worried about. Mark, I could potentially be a little worried about. Mark is in a very interesting spot because I almost want to say he's one of our better faithfuls here, not being looked at as a suspect for banishment. Potentially could be a great recruit pick by the Traitors if they want to go that direction. But also I could see him getting murdered. So, it's like 2 out of 3 is still, there's a flaw there.
It feels like that we're in a part of the season where it's sort of like, okay, starting to enter like the 2/3 point where the Traitors are going to be doing some murders that are just going to be like, well, they'll never see why that happened. That'll throw them off.
And I think that this is an interesting part of the game for the Traitors because up until this point, the Traitors have and do have a lot of opportunity to murder anybody for any reason. Once you get closer to the end game or middle point, it's like, well, I can't have this person get murdered. I need them. Or this person can't go. They have suspicion on him. So your hand is a lot more limited the later you get as a Traitor, because typically the Traitors don't stare down the barrel of the gun and go, you know what? No, I'm going to go ballsy. I'm just going to take out Tara Lipinski and deal with it. I don't think, Candiace ain't ever going to do that.
Yeah, it really is. There's a big luck part of being a faithful where to survive through this point of the game with in the early part of the game, I think we can sort of identify like, okay, don't make these specific mistakes. But now you're at a point in the game where the Traitors, there might be 2, might be 3. They're going to say like, okay, I'm going to protect my specific people. So you really have to have a very close relationship with a traitor to not even necessarily that that they're a traitor. Oh, like that's my traitor angel. But you do need somebody looking out for you in the turret at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you want to look at it, I have an analogy for this. So let's say you're working in a company, right? And you might not be the employee of the month. You're not working, you're working fine, but you're not working that hard. You're not like, you're replaceable for sure. However, you are now part of the boss's poker nights every Tuesday. You pull up, you put the chips down, you have some beers. So as long as you're in the good graces of the boss, you ain't going anywhere. I think that is kind of the luck that needs to be there, is that, okay, I'm not that good as an employee, but the boss fucks with me. So like maybe I could, I'm not going to go anywhere here in the event that anything happens.
Something else that I would say is a self-criticism. I felt like that I needed to cover as much ground as possible. Hey, there's 22 other people here. I got to check in with everybody. I want to be good with everybody. And I think that what you most likely need to do, there's not a ton of time in the day to be able to work the relationships. I think you're better off like having 4 deep relationships as opposed to 22 good relationships.
I do understand that for sure. I think it's tough, especially in the beginning, because you don't know who is the traitor that could murder you, right? So you want to so you could gamble and be a little bit more of a closer breath thing, but then I do fear that you end up in a position like a Donna Kelsey, where it's like you've got like 2 shooters, but then everyone else is very okay with you going.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if somebody's willing to go to bat for you, and again, we've talked about like this is a luck game.
Oh, hella luck. Yes.
If everybody likes you, but nobody's willing to go to bat for you, that's no good either. And so I'm not even saying that you are going to be able to pick out the 4 traitors, but, put your chips on the table, make some bets, find the people that you really vibe with. And I think really vibe with them, really say, okay, you're my person, for better or for worse, and try to go all in with a few people. And maybe one of those 4 is fighting for you.
Yeah.
And I just threw the number 4 out there. It's not a specific number, but I think that you're better off having deep relationships than wide relationships. And I know that's a little counterintuitive, but I just look back and I wasn't there for that long. But I think that, I was working on like a few deep relationships, but I think that I was really trying to, okay, let me go check out this room. Let me go check out this room. And I think you're probably a little better off of really trying to go really deep with a few people.
Well, especially I do think that you look at some players here and how much goodwill they have early on. Like someone like Colton, who had a lot of goodwill early. If you are like number 2 on Colton's list of people he's messing with the most, then you're safe for the most part, because your name comes up. He's like, I really don't think that's the case, because he has a lot of influence. People are like, okay, yeah, no, we can stay off of that. That one person could be all you need to have longevity in the game. So I do think that's something also worth considering. Absolutely. Because if it's the right people that you've invested in, then, and they have enough influence, they can cover the rest of the people that you don't have all that connection with at the moment.
Yeah. And I think you also need those deep relationships for the end game, where you need people who, assuming they're other faithfuls, that you can really trust when you head towards the fire of truth. People, okay, I know this person is good. And you have people who are really like going to bat for you. If they are a traitor, they're keeping you safe. If they are a faithful, you can count on them in the fire of truth, that they're not going to, flip the script on you and vote you out because they think you're a traitor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thought exercise, because I do think that we talk about the social game being the most important element of the traders, but I think not enough has been spoken about. But does that mean be friends to all or be friends to few, and which few?
And if we're talking about who's doing a really good job, I really do think that Natalie has done a very good job in the season. And things are starting to turn on her a little bit, because she's not in that big group that we talked about, that Johnny group, where Jam Jam even talked about it in his exit interview a little bit when he was talking about himself, that he was saying that there were people that they were sort of like, he was kind of being frozen out because that they thought that he was a traitor. And now you see that, okay, now that he's gone, there's some thought like, okay, well, it has to be one of the game people. Okay, obviously, maybe it's Natalie. Let's look at her. But she does have like a couple of deep relationships in the game, and one is with Colton and the other is with Rob.
And again, 2 very influential people, beloved people. So, well, not so. I mean, again, Colton has spent a lot of social capital here and is being looked at. But I think that we celebrated her last week, because I do think that it is not easy to have that much heat on you and then be able to change minds live at the round table, and also to make people feel like, okay, no, I feel better about her. Because to your point, if I'm the only gamer remaining now, I am bricking it. I'm like, okay, my time is coming. They're going to be looking at me. And I think that she recognized that overnight. The one benefit of the Jam Jam leaving during the banquet is that Natalie had all night to figure out how I want to bounce back. And she nailed that. She bounced back. She put that social game, that Survivor experience into work. And she, I think, is in a great spot now. I think she's one of the people that is not going to get murdered as long as Rob Roush is in that turret.
Yeah.
And I also think that she has garnered enough goodwill that she should be safe. My only concern with Natalie is that if she does get to a final 5 or final 4, do you then just pull the trigger? Because what if she is the one gamer that was a traitor all along? Does that metagame come into play one last time?
I mean, I'm sure that people are still like, you saw she was going to get a lot of votes at the round table. So now that Lisa is gone, like, are there still that contingent of people that are saying to look to Natalie? If she gets to that point, I would imagine maybe she has overcome that hurdle.
Yeah, for now, I feel like once you have suspicion on you in this game, you always have to think about the idea that it's going to come back up again. Someone else might decide to refresh it. So you got to be ready for when the time comes.
Okay. What are some other questions from the listeners?
All right, let's see. All right, Rob, do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about the Candiace versus Rob thing?
Fire away.
All right. So in our opinion, was it smart of Candiace to vote for Rob? If Candiace is banished, will they question Rob? So this 2-parter, I feel like this person may have answered their question a little bit from where I'm standing, because I think that now that we know a little bit of extra context of Candiace saying it's consistent with a faithful for me to question Rob after Rob was quiet this whole time, I think that we called it a warning shot for a reason, because if now Rob pushes Candiace and they go back and revisit Candiace's votes, they will look at the vote that she threw Rob's way, and they could see that as a problem, as a traitor on traitor, perhaps. So I think that for that reason, I'm not mad at it, because to me, it's an insurance card of, hey, work with me. work with me and we don't have to ever find out what happens if I leave. So I'm not mad at it. I get that it's petty, or I get that it might further ensure that Rob won't work with her. But also, I just watched Rob decimate one of our closest allies. Why do I think he's going to not do that to me either?
So I personally didn't love it. And it's not how I would have operated, where I think that you don't necessarily want your opponent to know that you're coming. And I mean, Candiace is, I think, very savvy, very strategic, but I think that she ends up really like alerting Rob that, hey, she's not going to be messed with and she's coming for him. Robbie Bobby is in trouble. And so I didn't like it from that standpoint. Like, I don't mind necessarily that she's going for him, but I think that she tips him off. So now we are in this situation where, okay, she's had it with him. She could be going for him. She's probably going for him. We see her talking to Johnny at the end of the episode about trying to get her people together, but he knows that she's coming. And so now he has a chance to prep his people, where I think that what works the best, and I'll reference Boston Rob and Bob the Drag Queen. When Boston Rob wanted to go traitor on traitor with Bob the Drag Queen, it was an ambush that Rob tried to get people together, but then Bob the Drag Queen didn't know it was coming at the round table, and then wasn't able to then get 6 or 7 people together to then be ready for Boston Rob. I think that what you want to do in these traitor on traitor situations, and we saw with Rob with Lisa, he told Lisa during the day, yeah, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try just like sit here, and yeah, I'll work to diffuse things if they come up. But in private, he was getting people ready to go for Lisa.
Yeah, well, I think that that's the thing, right? Is that Rob at that point has built is building an army, and is about to nail a traitor, which should clear him, make him seem like a lead detective now. Similar to what Boston Rob wrote a little bit after getting Bob the Drag Queen out. So if you're Candiace, you're like, I'm about to lose a lot of people here. And while I do agree with you that giving Rob the heads up probably isn't great, because now he can spend a lot of time figuring out, okay, how do I pivot us to Candiace next? I do like it from just so we're clear, I see what you're doing. I don't like it, and you're going to have to answer for this with me later. I do like it from that regard, because I'm with you. If I'm in Candiace's shoes, I wouldn't want to play this way either, but I'm happy that she did, because it's more fun for us.
More fun for us. And I don't want to be hypocritical, because Rob voted for Lisa Rinna at the last roundtable. So he did the same exact thing, or a similar thing that we're talking about, that Candiace made a mistake. I mean, Candiace was a little bit more out on an island. She was the only vote for Rob. And so he took that more personally. But he did end up voting for Lisa, and then we might well see where Candiace goes back to him. It's like, oh, no. I'm just like, I just did that. Don't worry. It's fine. We'll clean this up. And then acts just like he acted after the last vote. But it does feel like that this is really on. I wonder, was it a misstep for Lisa and for Candiace after the last roundtable where Rob wrote down Lisa's name? Should Lisa and Candiace have been more proactive instead of trying to pursue, let's get Natalie banished? Should they have, when the Dagger 6 are all out, should they have pursued Rob is a traitor?
I don't think so. I think for them, the motivations they were running with was they still want to make this a one big happy family thing. So I don't think, and I think that it's simply, then we're really getting into the Dan putting Phaedra's name out. Like, there was nothing connecting Rob to anything. I think you've talked about how you never expected him because he was eating Oreos and hanging out playing chess. And I think that's probably still a lot of feelings for everybody else. So it would have been a hard sell to go in. It would be like if someone came in here and was like,
no evidence.
Yeah, was like, I think Sam Moore's running this entire operation. And we're like, Sam Moore? How is Sam Moore running the operation? It's clearly Rob running the operation.
Yeah.
Huh?
A lot of people think that.
Well, like I just use Sam's name because his name is in front of me.
Mhm.
But like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I feel like that would have been a very hard sell. And while I do think it would have put Rob in danger, it would not have pushed Rob ahead of Lisa in the suspicion pile. Like I
But
think
in the
Lisa still
history of the
leads.
Traitors,
Mhm.
have the Traitors ever had a falling out and then put it back together? It seems
Yes.
like that. Yes, they have.
They have, and I don't want to tell you. I know you know which season, but I don't want to bring it up in case other
Mhm.
people don't know or don't piece it together. We have had traitor on traitor happen, and then traitor on traitor get rescinded. It has
Okay.
happened before.
But it's rare.
Oh, it's
usually
extremely
like
rare.
once there's a fracture, the fracture becomes
Mhm.
a canyon. And so I wonder if for Lisa and for Candiace, if they look back and say, you know, really, we should have, while there were two of us and one of him, we had a chance to really throw him under the bus.
Yeah, it's like playing spades. Once you break suit, it's over. Like the people are like you're going to end up seeing this happen. This is why I'm like a happy turret is a happy game, because the minute one of you throws the other under the bus,
They were on such a good roll.
Yeah, you're all going to be pushing each other. It's just going to
Yeah.
be mess.
Yeah. And so I think the original sin comes back to Rob casting his vote for Lisa.
Yeah, Rob really
broke
wanted
it.
to have it all. And I think I've seen a lot of people, Rob, talk about how, well, Rob was consistently good with Ron and with Colton. It would make no sense for him to vote either.
Mhm.
I still maintain, a part of me still maintains that Ron Funches was just on the way out. And I think that if Rob votes that way and then does his, and people will remember this. Remember the moment in Love Island when they voted out his girl and he got all sad about it and rolled his eyes? He could have pulled that off here. Sympathy card per like, y'all made me vote for him. I never thought he was bad. Da, 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 da. And it would have been fine. And he keeps both sides happy.
He could have voted for Ron. It was no problem. I think that he was getting pressure more from Colton of that Colton was Colton and Natalie were both so all in on Lisa. I think that that's what the issue was, where his allies were very much down the road of the Lisa. I don't know if they had said to him, hey, we can count on you at the round table, right? You're going to vote for Lisa, right? And so he wanted to then make it look like I couldn't vote for Ron. I love Ron so much. And so I think it was more peer pressure from people that were his close allies.
I think so too. I think there's definitely a part of that as well. I think that maybe, and for me, I understand all that. Maybe the one gripe I have with it
and was
is
hoping that Lisa had enough votes where he was peer pressured and also, yeah.
There was not enough guarantee that Lisa was leaving, which is a very risky choice then to vote her and then she stays.
He might have been making a wish on the coin and it didn't come up his way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What else do listeners want to know?
Let's see. Okay, so do we think, because I think a lot of people are seeing this game right now as Rob is the traitor in the lead, which I do agree with. I think, like we've said, Candiace is no slouch. Rob, what can Candiace do to swing this to her benefit is the question we are presenting.
Well, we went through the numbers the other day, and I think that we came up with the point that if she can spin this, that seemed traitor on traitor of that going after Lisa. And I think that what she's trying to sell is that Colton and Rob are the other two traitors and they're working close together, and that it was Colton knew it, like that was really traitor on traitor, and Rob's also part of it. The issue is that if that's what she's trying to sell, I think people are much more convinced of like, okay, well, Colton, let's get out Colton then.
Exactly.
And she's going to be like, no. Colton later. We need Rob now.
Yeah.
Though what we know about Colton, Rob, we should check Rob though.
We should check Rob though,
does,
because I do think this is the big worry: is that if no recruitments happen and then they push Colton and they get Colton out, Colton is not a traitor. So then that will cause them to dissolve all of that and look elsewhere. Probably they're not going to go like, all right, well, let's get Rob also and then see where we land really, unless the Johnny numbers become a new group that doesn't have Rob in it, and like, okay, we can go that way. So, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So for me, Yeah, I think that the traitor on traitor thing is the best argument. And I think right now, if Candiace can have someone like Johnny push that narrative out more also, that helps better than if Candiace is the one immediately now peddling, because I feel like it would be kind of out of character for Candiace to start pushing that name aggressively. So I feel like let other people do the work and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is Johnny going to really prosecute a traitor at the round table? We haven't seen it yet.
We haven't seen it yet. And I still think that, I think realistically, it's still, Colton is still number one on the list. I don't think they're going to go for Rob. So we'll see how they paint it and how they look at it. And if they truly do look at it as, all right, well, these are our numbers, these are their numbers, whatever, we'll see. But I think from Candiace's side, all she can do is, like you said, just push out the traitor on traitor thing potentially, and then see where we go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Another question here for you, Rob, or for us rather, is between the, so we've seen a lot of duos, a lot of alliances here get cut, get separated. We really have a couple that are still in there. The biggest couple coming into this were Johnny and Tara.
Get
Who
ready
do we
for the
think,
Olympics on Peacock.
how is that, like 2 days away? How close are we to
I
that?
think Friday is the opening ceremonies. And
there we go.
Yeah, Johnny and Tara, that they are big figures in the figure skating for Peacock and NBC.
Mm-hmm. Who do we think leaves first amongst the two? Who has the longevity in the game between the two of them?
If I had to pick between the two, Johnny has been more vocal, and so I feel like that makes him more likely to be murdered and more likely to be banished.
Johnny is in my top list of, if Candiace leaves, Johnny's murdered immediately. I think
interesting.
Just because of what you said, I think he's been the more vocal person there. We've not seen him go all out at the round table. It just feels like it's brewing, though. I feel like Johnny's been finding his voice more and more, so I could see him doing that. And I think he's protected by Candiace. So I think Tara's in it for the long haul. I picture Tara at the final fire of truth.
But I feel like that Johnny is less likely to get banished, because I think that he is the person, we've heard him talk 2 or 3 times about the numbers of, he's really, I think, like he's like Sandra with the pool balls of like, hey, if we have our group, we're good at the round table. We control the round table.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I can picture a narrative. I can picture a world where we come to breakfast. Johnny doesn't show up. Camera cuts to Tara. Tara's big mad. I can feel it.
Will she quit?
No, absolutely not. She better not.
She
oh my God.
off?
She's like, nope, I'm not doing this alone. Absolutely not. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah. Rob, you want to talk about the dagger a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay. So we got a question here. Do you think Natalie purposely was blatant in her dagger lie? She seems so obvious. I can see 2 reasons to do so. 1, to appear bad at lying, so she seems faithful, or 2, to avoid the dagger attention. Now, this is interesting. I will say, we're really looking at Natalie in a positive light to look at it this way. I think it's like 4D level chess going on. I think if you're Natalie and you're allies with Rob, there is no wrong situation here. I'm the last person he's questioning. So either Rob gets it or I get it. And the dagger is between the two of us. It's fine.
I think that the questioner was very charitable.
Yes.
I think that Natalie might be a little better when she has some personal animosity and dislike for who she's going against. So I think that we're not getting Natalie's A game in that spot. If it was if it was Michael Rappaport questioning her, Natalie the other day, she's not smiling. So I don't think that she was intentionally trying to give it to Rob, but I think that she was not necessarily giving you her full force, Natalie, in that moment.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm very curious for the faithfuls in that group and how they're going to feel if Rob just holds on to this dagger for 2 more cycles and isn't murdered. At what point do you start looking at Rob as a suspect because he's still in the game? Because he now has come out full force.
I wonder if they're saying like, hey, well, we know our group is good because Rob didn't get murdered.
that would be like entirely too trusting of their group, I will say. But also, or would they look at it and be like, kind of weird that Rob hasn't been murdered. Could he be the traitor? All right, well, as long as this group gets to the end, that's fine. We have a traitor in our midst. We'll be okay. Both equally interesting strategies to play out. I just feel like Rob has, and that was my biggest worry and my biggest criticism of him, is that he has the dagger now. He now has pushed out a traitor hard. If he doesn't get murdered, will people start looking at him? And I think that could happen.
I would say that based off of what I've seen so far, I don't feel like that there's a ton of 4D chess that the faithful are playing at this point from what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think playing 4D chess is exhausting also with the traitors, because the exact same things you're pinning someone for are the exact same reasons why they're innocent, and vice versa. Every coin has two sides with the traitors, and every person you could use the same argument for against. So it's tough. It's a lot.
Okay. Anything else on your mind before we get to episode 8 coming up on Thursday night?
Rob, episode 8, I know they said the banquet was the biggest episode. I genuinely think episode 8 is our biggest episode. Because I think that depending on who gets murdered, who gets banished, if they recruit, this episode could decide who is going to make the run at the end. Because I think right now we do have a very, very close race. Rob traitor win on the table. Candiace traitor win on the table. Faithfuls coming out of nowhere to grab this victory, very much on the table for me.
There's mutually assured destruction is also on the table.
Exactly.
You know,
where
we could end up where traitors win this season and it's not Rob or Candiace.
And that's the other one, the recruited traitor win, which amongst this group, I'd be very intrigued to see who that could be. But it's all on the table. It's a live game, and I'm very excited about it because I feel like some other seasons we have seen where very early on it's like, all right, well, they ain't gonna make it. So who else is gonna take this? Anything goes here. I would say right now my rankings are Rob, Candiace, recruited traitor, faithful.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see.
We have our exit interview coming up with Lisa Rinna on Tuesday, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. Of course, we'll be live again after the episode around 10:15-ish or so although last week's episode was like an hour and 10 minutes. Supersized episode.
Yeah. So we'll see if we get a bigger episode this time or not.
Okay. And then, of course, we have all of the Survivor 50 coverage as well, where Mike Bloom went to Fiji and got interviews with the Survivor 50 contestants. Mike and I have been talking about each of the tribes. And so that's been very fun. All that is up on Robin's podcast. So make sure you're subscribed. And we love to read your comments. Plus, we had a great podcast talking about the Traitors UK season 4 with Pooya and Annabelle and myself. And so very fun to go through all of that. Pooya, what else is coming up for you?
Well, I am talking about everything and anything with Liana over in the Pooya and Liana Lounge. So make sure y'all tune into that. We had Annabelle on as our guest. You can find me on all socials at Pooyaism, twitch.tv/Pooya for when I'm not podcasting. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we go from here, Rob, because this is the make or break week potentially for some people.
All right. All you listeners in the comments, how do you think it's going to work out? Let us know, and let us know how we did with our takes here today. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye. This is RHAP. We know reality TV.